please. All right, can everyone hear us?
I can hear you.
Yes.
All right, sounds good. The time is 7:01 p.m. and I will call this meeting to order. May we have roll call, please?
Mayor Reichel,
Here.
Pro Tem Hanrahan,
Here.
Trustee Bretnall,
Here.
Trustee Klassen,
Here.
Trustee Flores, Trustee Poston,
Here.
Trustee Siebert.
All right, may we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, be seated. The first item on tonight's agenda is public comments. Persons desiring to make a public comment on items not on the agenda, please activate the raised hand function in the meeting program. Or Sheila, any phone calls or emails in regards to non-agenda items?
No, I did not hear from anyone today.
Okay. Do we have any raised hands?
I do not show any raised hands, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We do have one gentleman signed in here in the chambers with us, so Alan Musino? Munoz, okay. Can you please up to the table, state your name and address for the record, and then we'll give you the floor.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
My name is Alan Munoz Valenciano. I live at 27653 Highway 6, so pretty much down the road here. So, hello, Mayor and members of Board of the Trustees. My name is Alan Munoz Valenciano, a lifelong resident of this community, and I am the regional manager for Voces Unidas, a nonprofit advocacy organization based here in our valley. And as an organization, we denounce the Town of Silt and its Board of Trustees for their performative and divisive resolution declaring the Town of Silt as a non-sanctuary community. As a Garfield County-based Latino and immigrant rights advocacy organization, we're disappointed that the Town of Silt has taken this unwarranted action to convey the message that some are welcome in our community, that some are not welcome in our community, and some are. This resolution perpetuates a detrimental divide in our community by signaling to Latinos and immigrants that they don't belong here. It does nothing tangible to better the lives of anyone living in Silt. In unanimously passing this resolution, the Silt Board of Trustees denigrates a group of people under the guise of a lack of financial resources or the operational infrastructure to accept them, further amplifying hurtful stereotypes of Latinos and immigrants by using words like illegal when referring to newcomers and to immigrants. We interpret this resolution to say that the Board of Trustees does not value immigrants, documented or undocumented, and only some groups are welcomed in the Town of Silt and not others. Not only does this resolution completely undermine the true values that our community holds, but by having trustees claim that people must earn it and join the community legally while simultaneously rejecting them from said community is just flawed logic. Such statements, along with this resolution, have no place in our community. The hollow rhetoric that immigrants only take and don't contribute is both prejudicial and erroneous, and it must end. Neither the Town of Silt nor any other municipality in our valley should put the immigrant community on the chopping block with such divisive, non-sanctuary resolutions. So we, as an organization, and hundreds of other advocates here in our community are calling for the Town of Silt and the Board of Trustees to rescind the non-sanctuary community resolution and shift your focus towards creating real policy that will improve the lives of all those who live in our communities, especially Silt, and regardless of immigration status. Prove to everyone in your community that you'll do what is best for them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, that is the only person signed in here in the chambers. So the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. It contains the minutes of the April 8th, 2024 Board of Trustees meeting. Item number 2 is the minutes of the April 15th, 2024 Special Board of Trustees meeting. Item 3, resolution number 18, Series 2024, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Silt, Colorado, authorizing signatures on the town's bank accounts. Item 4, resolution number 19, Series 2024, a resolution supporting the execution of the agreement for the Garfield County Federal Mineral Lease District Grant 24-SM-07 in the amount of $25,000 for a total project cost of $60,000 in order to offset the cost associated with the purchasing and installation of windows and doors for Town Hall of the Town of Silt, Garfield County, State of Colorado. Item number 5, Resolution number 20, Series 2024, a resolution supporting the execution of the agreement for the Garfield County Federal Mineral Lease District Grant 24-ST-08 in the amount of $300,000 for a total project cost of $450,000 in order to offset the cost associated with the purchase and installation of a fan press for the handling of sludge produced by the wastewater treatment plant for the town of Silt, Garfield County, State of Colorado. Would anybody like to address any of those individually or make a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Clausen to approve the consent agenda as presented, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Hanrahan. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Do any board members have any conflicts of interest tonight?
I do not.
None here, Mr. Mayor.
Not here, Mr. Mayor.
I'm going to recuse myself from the first reading of ordinance number 7, series 2024, because my daughter is employed this summer by Highwater Farm.
Okay.
So Mayor Pro Tem will take over when we get to that one, and we still have a quorum with four voting members on the board. So if there are no other conflicts of interest, we will move on to agenda changes. Staff or board have any agenda changes?
I do not.
None here.
Okay. Moving right along then, we'll move on to the first reading of ordinance number 6, series 2024. An ordinance of the Town of Silt, Colorado, amending and updating town code to prohibit and limit camping within the town on public and private property. And I will turn this over to our interim administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an ordinance that cleans up the town's code to tighten up the ability to camp within the corporate boundaries of the community. And it is something that came about based upon the concerns of being a possible landing spot for individuals that are undocumented, illegal, whatever vernacular you want to use, this ordinance would tighten up the ability for those individuals to camp in any of the public grounds or also private grounds throughout the town. When that discussion point came up, there were some concerns that there was some gaps in the current town code that would make it difficult for the police department to enforce the camping within the boundaries. This ordinance that was prepared simply tightens that up and puts limitations on the number of days that one could camp in a residential zoning district per se. I think that was one concern that was raised, that it would limit parents and their kids camping in their backyards, and the ordinance is not intended to do that, and there is provisions within the ordinance that still allows that type of camping.
Mr. Mayor, perhaps I can add a little bit more context.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so important to note is this ordinance is generally applicable. It's not targeted at any specific group. Rather, it is an ordinance of general applicability. As Jim mentioned, there are kind of two parts to this. One is camping on private property, and that is allowed for a period of up to 14 days within a 1-year period on a private lot. Then there is a ban on camping in public spaces. Those public spaces are generally defined as parks and open spaces and public rights of way. And that there is no time limit in which one can camp in the public spaces, unless if camping has been permitted by the Board of Trustees. So one could contemplate that perhaps there would be a harvest festival out at the Silt River Preserve. That is a town public property. Camping is generally banned there, but that as part of the harvest festival, some kind of camping activity was to take place. The board could move to allow camping under those limited circumstances. It is somewhat ironic that today the United States Supreme Court actually heard a case about camping bans arising out of the state of Oregon. The decision in what's called the Grants Pass case won't be issued for several months, but once that Supreme Court decision is rendered, we will review it, and if we need to bring forward modifications of this ordinance to comport with what the Supreme Court has decided, we will do that so at that time. Happy to answer any questions.
I do have one just in the language. So in chapter 17.68.060, a recreational vehicle may be used as a residence on a temporary basis on a residential lot for a period not to exceed 14 consecutive days within a single calendar year. That consecutive days to me sounds like I could stay there 13 days, move, and then come stay for another 13 days. I think
that's a great point. I think we should, well, at the board's direction, we could change that to remove the word consecutive days so it merely was days.
Yeah, I think that's, so when we originally did this one, I don't know, 5 years ago or something, we added the 45 days in there, just for the assumption that maybe you have family come stay for 2 weeks, they stay in your camper, and then 6 months later you have different family come stay in your camper and they stay there for another 14 days, so that you could use that RV as a home for 45 days within that calendar year. I don't know if that's still the direction we want to take. I see as we tried it that way for 45 collective days, and a lot of RVs have became permanent residences within the town. And it doesn't matter what neighborhood you go in, and it's the safety factor that's hooked up to an extension cord running off a house, which is usually not rated for the 30 or 50 amps that a camper requires. You have, on many instances, you have propane tanks that are being used inside those, and they're not designed to be lived in. They're not a home. So my opinion is, just for the fact that we have a CSO that's in this town now, we're trying to get the town cleaned up, more presentable. I'm good with restricting that clear back to 14 days in a calendar year.
14 days, period.
Period, yeah. I think the town's done great. We have, if you want to come stay in an RV 2 or 3 times a year, we have a KOA right across the street. We have hotels in town. We have a lot more options than we used to have, where people could stay in these type of vehicles.
Mayor, we in the past, as people, we've got a wedding coming in, I got in-laws coming in to help a month ahead of time. Got it. You know, this, nothing's chiseled in stone. We do show a lot of leniency until we feel it's been abused. When they become permanent residents, it's not safe, it's not sanitary. But big family reunion coming in and people are coming in early to help set up or whatever, yeah, You know, and all the time people communicate that with us. Hey, we know what the camping law is, but we've got this going on.
Going on.
You know, okay, so how long do you think they're gonna be here? And it just gives us something to follow up on.
Right.
So even though it's not black and white, it's written that way, but there's a lot of leeway in there too.
Okay.
So do you feel the 45 days would give you the leniency of
I think
opening those exceptions,
I'd like to go with Mr. Mayor and stick with the 14 days.
but making an
It's easier
exception?
for us to track.
So just remove the consecutive out of that.
Yeah, and I think it's also in,
Correct.
the section right after that is also 14 consecutive days. So, that's the only thing I see is if we can clean both of those up.
Sure, I
We'll,
don't have any objection.
we'll make that amendment.
So if we are moved to do that, we just need to make that in our motion to pass this first reading? Or,
No, I'll just make the amendment in what's presented to you at second reading, and it will be in the ordinance at that time.
okay, so we can just pass it as is and then it'll be changed for second reading, okay. If that's the board consensus, that's my opinion, I think. Trustee Clausen said he's okay with
Yes,
that.
yes, I'm good with that.
My only issue is that we are passing it for 14 days, but we already opening up a leeway to allow for the additional time. It's like a rule and non-rule in my mind.
Yeah, I think
How can we
that's-
incorporate that in the code?
Right,
Is there
I
a
think
way?
that's, a lot of the code and
Just guidance?
laws that we have are merely guidance. We don't want to be a town that is, at 15 days, we're summoning someone into court over having someone stay in their camper. You know, the last chief's time here, the police chief before them, Silt's always been a voluntary compliance kind of mentality. I think if we don't have a rule or a set limit, then every camper in town is gonna be up for rent. And they're gonna be used as permanent residences 365 days a year. And I don't want to have a police department that's out there
Stopping everybody.
stopping everybody from having their family come stay for a family reunion or a birthday. Many of those instances probably aren't gonna stretch over 14 days, and if there's an issue, their neighbors are gonna call it in, so.
Okay, so it'll be easier for tracking, easier compliance, and potentially easier to follow up upon if they exceed the set 14
You
days.
said 14 days, yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense to me.
Trustee Brittle, Mayor Pro Tem, any?
I mean, we have a KOA, we have short-term rentals that we know of in town, and I would, speaking to Chief Kite's earlier point, I'd rather give them the flexibility to expand where needed than to turn it into an enforcement action. To say, okay, it's been 14 days, you're gonna be 2 more, no big deal. Versus then it gets to 45 or some other number and it becomes an enforcement action. I feel like that's the greater good for the community as a whole.
And no matter what number you put it at, somebody's gonna stay a day after that, and so it is what it is.
Yeah, we just saw from the earlier presentation that there were RVs that had been there for some much longer than 45-day period. So it's not a hypothetical.
Yeah, no, the pictures in the CSO's presentation, you
It's
prove
going
that.
to happen. It's already happened.
Happening, yeah. Okay. I think our attorney has direction then on the amendment to come back with at the next reading. This is a public hearing, so I will open up to the public. The time is 7:20 PM, and I will open up the public hearing in regards to the first reading of ordinance number 6, series 2024. Persons desiring to make a comment on this agenda item, please activate the raised hand function in the meeting program. Or do we have any phone calls or emails in regards to this agenda item?
Mayor, I did hear from one citizen last week who voiced her concern that the ordinance might prohibit kids from being able to camp out in their backyards or some other family type activity like that.
Yeah, and that would fall underneath that 14-day, and you're, yeah, that's the voluntary compliance side of things that,
And
it's
there's a
like a
huge-
lemonade stand, you're supposed to have a liquor or a
Oh,
business-
that's my kind of lemonade
a business license for a lemonade stand, and I don't think we're shutting down anybody's lemonade or rock stand, so. Yeah, camping in your backyard is a small town thing, people do it.
And we are not out looking for kids camping in their backyard or parents camping in their backyard with their kids over the summer or something.
Yeah.
That's not what this is intended for.
Right. But I see this as this just gives us a leg if someone is using an RV or a camp or a tent as a permanent residence. It gives us something to stand on in that situation, so. Would anybody in the public like to speak to this agenda item? All right, seeing none, the time is 7:22 PM, and I will close the public hearing and open up to further discussion by the board or a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance number 6, series 2024, as presented with the adjustment that the alm attorney will be making.
Okay,
I'll second.
all right. Motion by trustee Brittenall to approve the first reading of ordinance number 6, series 2024 as presented. The town attorney will be making amendments for the second reading, and that was seconded by Mayor Pro Tem. All's in favor?
Aye.
All's opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The next item on the agenda is the first reading of ordinance number 7, series 2024. This is the one where I have a conflict of interest, so I will be stepping out of the chambers, and Mayor Pro Tem will be taking over on this one.
We'll lock the door.
Lock the door, okay. Someone wants to just come get me when you guys are wrapped
Will
up.
not.
All right. Next item on the agenda is the first reading of ordinance number 7, series 2024. And I will turn this over to Attorney Sawyer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. So before the board is an ordinance that would permit the amendment of the lease that the town has with High Water Farms. As the board is aware, High Water operates the community agriculture and youth participation program at the River Preserve. We originally entered into a lease with High Water Farms in 2020, and that lease is slowly coming up at the end of this year. But with experience of how the lease kind of has operated and a few items that we think the lease could better describe, Sarah from High Water Farms asked that we undertake a process to do some amendments. Jeff Lehman worked with Sarah on, in particular, the concept that if High Water Farm participates in a certain number of community events every year, that some minor charges that the lease allows the town to bill back to Sarah or back to High Water Farm could be forgiven. That helps her bottom line out as a nonprofit. You'll see those provisions in the amended lease. And Sheila, actually, if I could get you to go back up to my staff memo real quick. Thank you so much. One more page. There we go. All right. So there's nominal rent, and there is the ability to charge back for certain things, town staff time if the staff helps with a little project related to High Water Farms, things like porta potty rentals, electricity. The High Water Farms does have their irrigation pump on a meter that gets charged back to the town. And again, if High Water participates in these community events, those charges would be forgiven, and you'll see there's kind of a sliding scale in the lease to that effect. High Water Farms does use a portion of the town's rights in the Rising Sun ditch. There will be a meter installed on that ditch. I think the agreement, the lease says April 15th. I had a communication with Sarah's attorney earlier today. She said that by May 15th, that lease will be in. And I don't see that as a material issue. But that will allow the town to meter how much water is actually being used by High Water Farms. High Water Farms has had a couple of issues with the Rising Sun ditch. They do turn the ditch off for a period of time during the summer to conduct maintenance. Sarah has asked that she be allowed to participate together with the Public Works Director in ditch meetings, which seems like a reasonable thing to do. And one of the reasons that, and we have connected High Water Farms to a well that's on that parcel, so that during these maintenance periods, there is at least an emergency source of supply to keep the crops growing. The amendment to the lease does not extend the term of the lease. That is to say that the original term for 30 years, starting in 2020, will continue to govern. That 30-year term is kind of broken into 5-year blocks, where in advance of a term renewal coming up, either side actually can terminate the lease. So if the town had a really crucial need to use this property for something else, we would have to wait until toward the end of the 4th year of a lease term to do it, but the town could terminate the lease if needed. Sarah asked if she needed to be here today. I said, you just presented. I think the board is aware of your activities. And if the board would like her to be present for the second reading at the next council or at the next board meeting, we certainly can have her participate. But I'm happy to answer any questions, and staff recommends approval of the ordinance on first reading.
I think it's good that they're tying up being part of some of the town's events as of incentives as well. I think that's a good offset. Yeah, I like that amendment. And I love what High Water Farm does in general. I think it's a great addition for the town. And I don't wanna say kids, but the adolescents of the town.
Yeah, I think High Water Farms represents a key asset for the town of Silt in terms of providing food, literally, healthy food, and also what they represent for the town in the larger community of Garfield County. I've never heard anyone say anything bad about them in any regard. And I said earlier between meetings, I tried to sign up for their vegetable delivery. I want to say it was a month and a half ago, and it was already sold out. So that substantiates their actual value. And if we can give them more means to provide more of this service, I'm all for it. I can't think of any reason to say no to this. And I don't think the resources that they're using are in any way a prohibitive expense on the town. And if we need to forgive them, then I feel like that's the right thing to do in this case.
I agree 100% with what both of you guys just said, and yeah, I'm in support of this.
Pretty echoing that, yeah.
No other
I didn't see anything that I was
concerns,
concerned about. No.
questions?
I don't have anything.
Okay.
So, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, because this is an ordinance, a public hearing would be opened, and if there are any public comments, they can be made at that time, and then you can move for a vote.
Okay. This is a public hearing, and I will open it up to public comments. The time is 7:31 p.m. Do we have anybody here who wanted to make any comments regarding this? Any phone calls or emails, Sheila? We
Oh,
cannot hear.
Sheila, you're muted. Sheila, you were on mute.
You're still muted, Sheila.
I hit it twice. Okay. No, I did not hear from anyone today. Thank you.
And I do not show any raised hands.
Okay. The time is now 7:32 p.m., and I will close the public hearing and open it up to board comments or a motion.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance number 7, series 2024 as presented.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Brintnall, seconded by trustee Poston, to approve the first reading of ordinance number 7, series 2024 as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
We'll grab the
Can
mayor.
someone go get the mayor, please?
Restore order.
Seriously. Forget to vote. Amateur hour.
Thank you.
We're going to give him extra time.
We don't want to rush you.
Can't have him go down and go on workman's comp.
No, not doing that. All right. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the policy discussion regarding out-of-town taps. And I will turn this over to our administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. During the planning process for the new water treatment plant, due to concerns that we shouldn't be selling taps that we might not be able to service because of the condition of the current water treatment plant, the town board directed staff to not sell any additional out-of-town water taps. We are currently faced with a position that Free Up Storage is expanding their footprint. They are not within the boundaries of the town, but they are adding a climate-controlled facility that will require a sprinkler system as well as a bathroom. So therefore, they are requesting to connect on to the town's water system. At this point, we have told them that there would need to annex, but we wanted to bring this back to the town board's attention so that you can make a decision or give direction on whether you would want to consider starting accepting applications for out-of-town taps, or whether you would like to continue or maintain the current position of not selling out-of-town taps based upon a variety of reasons. Certainly, Free Up Storage would have the ability to annex to the community if it's the decision to maintain the current position. I think, and Attorney Sawyer reviewed this and pointed out that there are times when it makes sense to sell out-of-town taps. In my experience, I think that should be done on a very limited and thoughtful basis whenever possible. But we wanted to note that out-of-town water users pay 200% of the in-town monthly rates, but they are also required to pay a 300% of the water right dedication and system connection fees. So there is a financial hit if they stay in the unincorporated area versus annexing to the town. So basically, we're looking for some direction from the board as to whether you would like to continue the current position, or B, would like to start accepting applications to sell out of town water service again. It is my understanding that anytime we sell an out of town tap, it does require board approval. So each one would come to the board for special approval. This action tonight does not give free up storage and approval, but it would allow them to make the request if the board so chooses. And I don't know if Attorney Sawyer would want to add anything to my comments prior to opening up to your discussion or questions, but perhaps he would.
I would just add that so recently in discussions we've had with the Division of Water Resources over how the town's plan for augmentation is administered, the division is going to require that we account for water uses that are not connected to our sewer system as being 100% depletive to our system. And what that means is that, so for example, all of the water that goes out through the bulk water station, we're going to have to augment 100% of that. And for, let's say, a residence on the edge of town that's not annexed but wants water service but wants to keep their septic system, the way that the state accounts for people who are hooked up to our water or to our wastewater system is there's only a 5% consumptive charge that gets applied. Whereas if you're on ISDS, you're now going to have 100% consumptive charge, meaning that essentially anyone who only wants water and doesn't want to connect to our sewer are going to have to buy 20 SFEs or EQRs of water rights dedication as opposed to one because of this accounting change that's being made. That's going to make it a lot less desirable for out-of-town residents to ask for water service from the town. And I guess one way to say this is, as Jim mentioned, well, if you want our water service annex, which upon annexation, you would have to connect to the town's sewer system. Or if for some reason you couldn't annex, we would require that you connect to the town's wastewater system. So, and the economics, if you're someone like this potential applicant who thinks, oh, it'll be great, I just have to buy a couple of SFEs of service and then I get water and I don't have to worry about a well and all that. The economics of that are going to change when we say they have to pay 20 times our water rights dedication fee to connect to our system. So this may end up being something of a moot issue just because people won't want to pay the costs associated with it.
So this, Mayor Reichel, just during this, so this augmentation usage at 100%, is that in place now, or is that something that's coming to us?
That is something that the state is saying we have to start accounting for in water year 2024.
Okay, so it is
Now. Yeah.
now.
It is now, and I would tell you, I mean, we have plenty of water. It doesn't cause a problem for the few out-of-town taps that we already have where, we didn't make those charges because the state wasn't making us account that way. But going forward, you know, so that residents of the town are not subsidizing people who choose not to annex into town, I think we would have to require that they pay the full water rights dedication fee equal to 100% of their use.
Okay. Because I can see this becoming more of an issue when new wastewater plant rules may come down where we're supposed to put, you know, we take X amount out, we have to put X amount back in the river, but now we're not doing that. And with the construction of a new wastewater plant, maybe there's going to be some implications with that calculations possibly.
I think the amount of water, at least right now, that we see leaving the system, again, through the bulk water plant or through the, you know, a couple of handfuls of taps that are outside of the town's boundaries, is probably not enough to sway that. But I mean, that could become a bit more of an issue in the future, and would be something we would want to listen to our, you know, wastewater treatment consultants about, because you're right, dilution is definitely a important part of wastewater treatment. So.
And then I don't want to, you know, the potential applicant we may have, I don't want to go talking about that directly, but a situation where a piece of property to connect to our sewer system would require a lift station. I mean, that might make it financially unfeasible for someone to make that connection. So then I agree that we'd have to go down the path of charging them those EQRs to offset that.
Yeah, I mean, if there was a situation where the board really felt that it was important to allow a water connection, but they couldn't feasibly connect to wastewater because of elevations and, you know, like you say, the need for a lift station or something like that, in that situation, they would just have to pay the full water rights dedication freight.
Unless they annex.
Unless they annex. But if they annex, they have to connect to the town's sewer system. Your utility code requires that all properties within the town be connected to the town sewer system.
Which they'd have to bore into the tracks and I-70 to tap into that line or go east to where the town sewer line is under 16th Street. So either way, they'd have a ways to go to get to Gravity.
I mean, in general, I do agree that there are some parcels that it may be beneficial to the town to supply them water outside of our boundaries. And with the new water plant coming online, you know, I would be in favor of going ahead and opening up that process again, since the board does look at them on a one-on-one basis, and at least get that option back out there.
Yeah.
Someone that's looking and they're going to pay that much to connect to a water line and all the fees associated with it can, you know, is going to help us financially. But I would state that I will not be in favor of anybody that wants an out-of-town water tap asking for a reduction in fees. I'm going to look at that regulations that we said is pretty clear, black and white, that if you want to connect, this is what it costs.
I agree, and I'm going to say I'm not happy because the applicant has 2 fire hydrants out there and a water line installed to 16th Street, so they've already made the assumption that we're just going to say yes to them. And this is why I'm not happy, because come to the town first, ask us first. Don't just automatically assume that you can tap into the water. And I'm unhappy with Garfield County, because Garfield County, evidently, they had to get a building permit to Garfield County. So all this was approved with building permits. How come Garfield County just made the assumption that we're just going to let these people connect water? So I'm of the opinion of no taps be allowed outside the boundaries of the town. So I'm of the opinion they would need to annex.
Well, so this is a bit of a policy discussion, and I
I
think
know,
what
but when I
what
saw
we're-
that, I was unhappy. So the public needed to know that these people are just making the assumption that they can push us around. And I'm here to say, no, applicants cannot push the town around. You know, you need to ask permission before you just automatically do stuff.
So it sounds like the policy that the board has is that, first of all, we would want to promote annexation, so we get property tax as well as utilities. Second of all, that the board would consider under kind of extraordinary circumstances, a request for out of town taps, water taps to be provided, ideally with the connection to the sewer system. But that generally the town's policy is not to promote the sale of taps outside of the jurisdictional boundaries of the town.
That's my take on it.
As long as we know that we're going to be able to review them on a case-by-case basis.
And that's how it is currently.
That's how it is currently. I'm thinking back to when we talked about not providing out-of-town water service, and that was when we didn't know the status of the new water plant, and there were serious questions about, can we even provide for the citizenry we have? Never mind the citizenry that are going to be coming in the next 10 years. It was about, 10 weeks, if you will. Now the water plant's been approved. It's being built. I feel like some of that emergent need for this policy has shifted slightly. I'm still concerned about setting precedent, but having the ability to review them on a case-by-case basis, to the mayor's point, gives us an opportunity to say, you went through the county first and these other things. We would have an opportunity at that point to say, you did it the wrong way, you wasted a lot of money, it's not going to happen. But I don't want to penalize the many for the actions of the few.
Yes.
I feel like there are going to be cases where it's justified. And as long as we have an opportunity to review them, I'm good.
Yeah.
I don't want to make a wholesale decision one way or the other.
Right.
And yes, I know we're not specifically talking about free up storage, but they are in the staff report, so.
And we'll have that opportunity when they come before us for that, if this passes tonight.
Oh, this is just.
This is
Well, it's
just,
just an
an
information.
info
I
item.
just
Oh, I'm
also
sorry.
think-
So, yeah.
so it's-
And that's the things I think that we do.
When they get here.
We do obviously still provide, suggest and request annexation and those things first. But obviously there's some cases where that may not be necessarily the best thing either.
Right.
And so having it tied together, if we can tie into the sewer system, so that way we don't have that offset problem, that's ideal as well. But again, because the board can review by case basis, then I'm okay with them being available. I mean, I'm gonna advertise, put a sign out there, come get your out of town water taps. But if it's a need that somebody has, I think we can look at those, providing those again now. Whereas in the past, because of the state of the water plant, we weren't able to.
Agreed.
yeah.
And I guess to their benefit, I hope, someone from town staff didn't just say, go ahead and do it, so.
So yeah, do we need to turn this into a formal policy? Because we didn't really have a formal policy to not accept them. It was just kind of direction to the staff. So I think we're just going to go back to directing staff that we will accept them, and the board will review them on a case-by-case basis. I think we do. Do we need to get the language in there for the water right dedication that we would require if they cannot?
Yeah, I think that, and I don't know if we have like an application form for this, but it probably, warrants having at least a fact sheet that says if you're not connecting to the town sewer system, you'll be required to provide fees in lieu of dedication of water rights for the full amount of service that you're being provided.
Yeah, I think we should definitely do that.
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like a
Yes.
fact sheet, these are your costs if you're annexed, this is your cost if you're tied into the sewer, and this is your cost if you're not. That way it just makes it easier for them to, all black and white, easy to
Black
see.
and white, yeah.
And then there's less chances of, well, they said this or they said that. They've been given documentation.
Okay. Staff
Very
have
good.
good direction on that one?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, this was just an information item, so we will move on to the next agenda item, which is the report on the revised work week.
As you know, you authorized the transition to a 4-day, 10-hour work schedule that would commence a week from today on the 29th of April. But prior to that, you wanted a report back on any feedback that we have received related or any problems or any feedback that we've received from the citizenry and those stopping in at town hall. We have not received any negative feedback. We did receive some concern that we need to make sure that we're doing a good education process out there, which we continue to put this in the town's newsletter. And it's posted. I think we even put something in the on the Facebook page. But we are trying to keep that up and keep that information stream flowing so that people are aware that come Monday we'll be working 4/10s and we'll be closed on Fridays. From an operational standpoint, we haven't had any issues, except for the fact that we learned that one of our vendors is not available for tech support prior to 8 a.m. So that was the one thing we discovered, that we just can't have any tech problems until 8 a.m., I guess.
Okay.
And I shouldn't say that that's not our tech support for the general operation of the town's system. It's for our accounting software.
And they don't have any on-call or emergency-based support where on the rare occasion that we use it, we agree to pay a bit of a premium?
It didn't appear as such. We didn't explore that deeply. We just are going under the fact that we have to wait until 8 o'clock to get them roasted.
Amy will just have to find something else to do for that first hour of her day.
Don't break
I'd say she'd drink coffee, but she doesn't drink coffee.
So don't break anything until 8.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay. I have not heard anything negative other
Not really
than
at all.
the one Facebook post that was blaming it on our interim town manager, that he came in and was making this change, which I explained at the last meeting that we were discussing this before he had the position, that it was actually the board that directed to go down this road, not him. So that's where we're at.
We're just hazing him.
Yeah. I think we're going to see this. I mean, more and more businesses are going to 4-day work weeks, so you adjust your schedule and make it happen.
Yeah.
So as of the 1st, we will be,
As of April 29, so a week from today.
a week from today, we'll be closed Fridays. Okay. All right, and we'll see how that works being closed, and if we have any issues, we can always revisit this. It's not chiseled in stone at this point, so.
Correct.
At
Okay.
any point.
I mean, yeah, technically at any point, it's never chiseled in stone, but, okay. Thank you for the information. Next up is the March 2024 financials. Turn this over to our treasurer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is for the month of March. We have 25% of the year has elapsed. We are pretty much right on line with what we had anticipated our revenues being for sales tax. We're at 26.8%. We are 3.8% lower than this time last year, but we're still on track for what we had anticipated our revenues being. We are above that with use tax at about 31%. Trash, water, wastewater, and irrigation fees are right in line with what we had projected, except for our water service fees are significantly higher at 33% collected so far for the year. We're doing well with our revenues in most of our funds, and of course, expenditures. The Construction Impact Fund, it was just one large expenditure, and then the Conservation Trust Fund was the same thing. So we're a little higher than that. And then, of course, our Victims Assistance Fund is over what we anticipated as far as the time of the year that has elapsed. We don't plan on going over any of those budgets. But I'll answer any questions you may have.
Okay, any questions?
The new dollar store, did that open, and what do we think its impact is going to be on sales tax when it does?
Well, it will certainly make it go up. I don't
Pick a
think it
number.
has
Pick a
opened
number.
yet. That would be a question for Nicole, whether the final CO has been issued. I would put that probably close to in line with what the Dollar General is bringing in, seeing that they will have different products. So I'm hoping and anticipating that sales tax will no longer be behind for what we have done last year.
Okay, so it won't cannibalize the other dollar stores' sales.
It shouldn't, in my opinion, just because the products are going to be different. And like Golden Gate, with the Come and Go was quite concerned about their sales going down, and it didn't affect Come and Go's sales for Golden Gate to be open. You're hitting different people, especially with the location. More people are coming from different areas that will hit it
So that's good, a net gain in sales tax, even if, not significant.
I don't think it'll be quite as much as Dollar General was, but it will definitely, because there will be, I think Dollar General will have some decrease, but it's not gonna like cut theirs in half, basically be net the same. I think we'll definitely have an increase.
That's great.
Yeah, I don't think they have the groceries like the Dollar General will have. I mean, I know they'll have a couple of refrigerated section, but not to the extent that the Dollar General has, and the products will be different.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'll jump in really quick and just let everybody know that they are very, very close to getting CO'd. Their tenant finish has been finalized. They're just waiting for a few additional corrections to be done to the shell before the whole project can be CO'd.
Nice.
Okay.
Thank you, Nicole.
So no date, but soon.
Okay.
Soon. They're just buttoning up a couple more things. I think that their hope was to launch it no later than May 1st at this point.
Okay. Sounds good. Any other questions on financials?
I don't have anything. Thank you, Treasurer Tucker.
You're welcome.
Okay, then next up is administrator and staff comments. Any administrators or staff want to make any comments?
We'll make a couple comments. Couple quick ones. We have posted internally for the Public Works Utilities Director and also a new Water Technician 1 that will be an entry-level position in the Water Department. There is a couple of bills that I wanted to bring to your attention. There is a House Resolution 1006 related to property taxes that would place some additional limits on property taxes. They do not appear to be overly onerous because there would be a new formula that is Tabor-esque in terms of what you're allowed to increase your property tax revenues by. It would be limited to the statewide population increase plus inflation plus 2% plus an allowance for new construction. It's a little nebulous in terms of what that would all mean. It didn't seem onerous. However, from my perspective, anything that puts a limitation on the town's ability to raise revenues always ends up being problematic at the end of the day. The second is SB 24-174, which is a program for sustainable, affordable housing assistance. And this is directly putting some additional resources in to help communities do the planning necessary to put in a strategy for sustainable housing programs. If anyone is interested, definitely contact your representatives and let them know your opinions. We can get you copies of the draft legislation if you would like to review them, but those were two bills that were out there that I thought would be of interest to the board. And then the last thing I'll bring up is that I think you all received an email from me earlier today regarding the Chamber of Commerce's annual award dinner, which is this Friday evening at the Rifle Airport. I did receive 2 responses from Trustee or Mayor Pro Tem Hanrahan and Trustee Poston that they would be interested in going. We do have 2 tickets. If there are others that would like to join, we will certainly inquire and see if we can get some additional tickets for you to attend.
I saw that 27th as of the date,
Yeah, it's Saturday night, not Friday night.
the 20th.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's those 4-day work weeks, isn't it?
It is.
Saturday, 26th.
Yeah,
Fridays, Saturdays, they're all the same now.
6 o'clock at Miners
Just
Lane.
one long weekend.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Any other updates? Any other staff? Okay, if not, we'll jump over to board updates from the board council. We'll start with Trustee Clausen.
All right. I had several for Public Works, but he isn't here tonight. So I have a question for Nicole. I've noticed Fernie's Tacos trailer is back. Do they have all the correct permits?
They have submitted a land use application and will be on the May planning and zoning meeting for their site plan review.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. And I guess for Nicole, any word on the 7th and Main building? Just because they were at
This
P&Z a couple of times. I just didn't know if they've made any progress on that.
they have not. Are you talking about the bank building?
Yes, the bank building, sorry.
Okay. Yes. So they have not given us any additional submittal items. And at this point, that application has been stamped abandoned. And when they are ready to come back in front of us, they'll reapply.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Yes.
And what else? I guess this is for, interim administrator. We got an email a while ago for the Garfield County broadband. Is there any update on that meeting?
The update that I can give you is that we held interviews for service providers. I have not heard of anything after those interviews, whether there has been a choice of the end providers that would help the communities actually extend through the community and then outward.
Okay. And then the only other thing, I noticed the speed calming discussion wasn't on our agenda. Has that been moved? Because it was going to be for the one of the April meetings. Just, you know, the bullet points we have, the tentative upcoming meetings, work sessions.
I'm not sure where. I know we were gonna have one, but I don't know where.
So
it
yeah,
got.
on the last agenda, you're
On the
saying
last
it was
agenda.
marked as being on the next one, which would be tonight.
Yes. I just didn't
Right
know if-
now, if I can interject, we do have it set for a work session in May, of the May 28th meeting. So you should be seeing
Okay.
the traffic calming that evening.
Okay, I was just curious. All right, thank you. And then the only other thing I have is the gentleman who did public comments earlier from Voices Unitas? I apologize for saying it wrong. But anyway, I mean, I made the decision based on what's best for the town and our community and its citizens. So I believe that a lot of his comments were putting words in our mouth, because there are a lot of things that we didn't say that he said we said, and I believe they're instigators. And, you know, to truly not be racist is to not think of it at all. So I believe that they're instigating, you know, problems that don't necessarily need to be problems. So, and I am going to stand by my vote and my word on that subject. And that's all I have.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
Just a quick thank you to the City of Glenwood Springs. They held that event a couple of weeks ago, and Trustee Poston and I were able to attend it. It was for elected officials and other sort of community stakeholders, third-party organizations and stuff. It was a really good evening. A lot of informal conversation. Representative Will was there, which was nice. Some police chief from Eagle County, I don't recall his name. He was there as well. He knew you. He spoke well of you, but we won't hold that against him. No, it was a diverse crowd in every way, and they were fascinating conversations happening all over the room. And I just really enjoyed the opportunity to engage with people in similar roles, but in other communities. I hope it becomes a more regular occurrence. They suggested near the end that if every community could host it once a quarter or once every half a year, and we would effectively take turns hosting it so that we would get out into those other communities. I thought that was a great idea, and I hope that at some point Silt can get in line to be able to do that.
Okay.
And apparently I'm a social butterfly because I'll be at the chamber event this weekend too. Y'all are shut-ins, you need to get out.
Or you have no life and you have lots of time.
Or option B. That's all for me.
All right, Trustee Poston?
To Derek's point, I think it's really great to be out there and talking to other officials as well as talking to the community. There is just a great value, just as meeting with our interim town manager in person. There's a special kind of exchange of energy and values that we have once we're interacting with people, especially in person. With that being said, I want to thank Adam for coming in with Voices Unidas. We know it takes a lot to come in and bring your opinions and voice them on a public setting, and we value that within our community. We value the voice of our community, and we want to be able to represent that community here. We encourage, as always, to have the public come in during those discussions so that there is a very open understanding of where the board's heart is at when making those decisions. For me particularly, it's a very sensitive time where we are living right now. We see a lot of different things happening, different places, and we are thankful for being able to provide for the entire Silt community, just as a servant leaders here as the Board of Trustees, all we want is to keep that safety. And a lot of our discussions revolve around, are we having that conversation with the citizens? How are we making that decision? Are we being lenient within, we are not punitive? And part of the discussion within the specific issue addressed here, when we made the decision on the resolution of being a non-sanctuary, it's a way for us to reassure the citizens of Silt that we want to help keep the town a safe place. Needless to say that not adopting this resolution, it would keep us from doing that. It was just a way to reemphasize that, because once again, there are huge things happening around the world and around the United States, and we want to make sure that we are being humane, we are treating people like they need to be treated, provide the resources that comes from, the paying the citizens of Silt that are paying taxes. Those are the resources. They don't belong to us, but that we are assigning those properly. So with all of that being said, we appreciate any citizen coming in and voicing their opinions. We encourage each one of the Silt residents to come in during the discussions and asking the tough questions and really understanding where our heart is at. And I can assure you, the heart is at being humane and protecting the citizens of Silt.
Thank you. Trustee Britton?
I was gonna say, I was trying to think of how to address that and how it would stay, and I couldn't have said it any better than that. That was perfect. I attended the Garfield County Weed Advisory Board meeting last week. Mostly it talks about noxious weeds, that kind of stuff, knapweed, thistles, all kinds of different stuff. They asked Sarah, the lady who runs it for Garfield County, asked me about who they contact, because some of the citizens will call the county because it's the county weed board, but then they don't have any jurisdiction in the towns. So I just directed them to call the police department or call the town, and then they'd probably get a hold of, I'm guessing the community service officer would go out, type of thing, because it's more an education piece on that stuff. With Public Works not being here tonight, there was some talk about if they have any of the knapweed in the area in town at all. There is a gentleman that's a rancher nearby that has a thing of some biocontrols, some basically bugs that only eat knapweed, that are in a larva stage right now where they haven't been hatched yet this year. So if we want to get hold of some, I can get you in contact with him, and then he'll work with you as far as getting it to bring it out. So if we have some knapweed areas we want to cover, and I mean, it's not a fix as fast as spraying, but it's probably a little longer term and it's safer.
Okay. Pretty nice. I didn't get to go, but I listened in a part of the IMTPR meeting on Friday. I think it was Friday. They're going to be sending out some, I guess, what they're going to deem rules of the IMTPR about, being there in person, what we're supposed to ask for, stuff like that. So that'll be coming down the pipe. There was a lot of discussion about how we need to fight as the IMTPR to get state and federal funding to this area. But there were a few communities then at that point that said, we're willing to fight to get the money here, but then we're going to fight for it to be ours. So we're going to fight to get it here, and then we're going to see what projects need done as a group. It's more of how much of the pie am I going to be able to get out of this? So a little disappointed in that philosophy. And, of course, it'll be I don't know if they're keeping the project list as it is, because then there's always the talk about going through and redoing the project list. So it'll be interesting to see what that happens. I didn't get to be for the whole meeting, so I don't know what the first part of the discussion was, but I was not too pleased with the discussion at the end. So once we get those rules, we'll get them out there, and we'll see see what we have to do to make sure that we're part of that process. And that's all I've got. So, next item on the agenda is adjournment.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by trustee Clausen to adjourn the meeting, seconded by trustee Brittenall. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, thank you everybody for being here tonight. Get home safe and we'll see you at the next one.